కొద్ది దగ్గర పెట్టుకుని అక్కర్లేదు కాబట్టి వాయిస్ కొద్దిగా ఇది కొద్దిగా దగ్గర పెట్టుకుంటే మేడం వాయిస్ ఫస్ట్ హ్యావ్ ఇట్ సినిమా టేక్ 1 స్టార్ట్ కెమెరా.
I mean, I would be seeing the students also, maybe. No, na? Then, I mean, if they keep on popping up, then it would be a disturbance.
Time
58. 2 minutes.
సెకండ్ లింక్ కదనే?
No, second link.
This is much better.
Physiology class, sir? Madam?
Yes, sir.
Sir, 10:59 అయింది, అడ్మిట్ చేయమంటారా?
But we are going to close all those videos, the nonsense.
అలాగే.
Ajay, D sir is also saying.
Yes, sir. వచ్చారా?
You know what I wanted to say? నన్ను ఎంటర్ అవ్వట్లేదు
సార్ మీరు
నేను మొత్తం దాడిపోయింది.
ఒకసారి చెప్పండి సార్, నేను ట్రై చేస్తాను అడ్మిట్ చేయడానికి.
కరెక్ట్ అవుతుంది. Meeting has reached maximum 100%. Please stagnate. None, నాకేం ప్రాబ్లం లేదు. I just wanted to see మనకి మనకి సెల్ఫ్ ఫీడ్బ్యాక్ మానిటర్ పెట్టుకుని 99 మినిట్కి పెట్టి రేపటి నుంచి 300 వచ్చేస్తుంది. సో ఫ్రీ కమ్స్ టు లిమిటెడ్. ఇప్పుడు ఒకసారి మన లెక్చర్ 122 ఉన్నారా? అంటే ఒకసారి లెక్చర్ ఈచ్ మీటింగ్ ఇస్ 40 minutes. ఓకే, సో కట్ ఆఫ్ second meeting another 40 minutes. Each session you cannot do long.
Okay.
Number
1 hour అని నేను అలా వచ్చాను, కొంచెం స్పీడ్ వచ్చేసింది.
క్లాస్ చెప్పేటప్పుడు ఇంటర్నెట్ లాగ్ ఉన్నా సరే స్పీడ్
అది కట్టే I'll do it by tomorrow morning. కూడా ఇది ఇలాగ remember కాల్ ఇంకా 100 నాట్ 30 మంది ఉన్నారు.
చూస్ చేస్తున్నారు
total number of participants number.
Good morning, students. Today I would be talking about thalamus. Thalamus, a very important relay center for all the sensations which are being relayed. Okay, so we would continue with the presentation. So today's learning objectives would be to know what is the functional anatomy of thalamus. Next, we would discuss the connections of the thalamus with the various parts of the brain, then what exactly is the function of thalamus, and then its applied aspects. Now, to introduce thalamus, I would say it is the largest part of diencephalon, location almost near the center of the brain. As it is a paired structured, the thalamus in Greek means inner chamber. It is egg-shaped, almost 2 to 3 centimeters in length. It is placed immediately lateral to the third ventricle. I would not discuss much about the anatomical correlations. So I would switch to the external features. The thalamus has anterior and the posterior end. It has 4 surfaces, that is the dorsal surface, ventral surface, medial and lateral surface. Coming to the internal features. In the internal features, As thalamus has got relays most of the sensations, it could be considered as the most wired networking center. So it has a lot of gray as well as white matter. Gray matter are organized into various nuclei. White matter as compared to gray nuclei is very scanty. The white matter of the thalamus forms a very thin layer around the thalamus. It is further divided as stratum zonale. The stratum zonale covers the superior surface of the thalamus. And the next is the external medullary lamina. This external medullary lamina covers the lateral surface of the thalamus. It consists of thalamocortical and corticothalamic fibers. Coming to next, we have the internal medullary lamina. This internal medullary lamina is Y-shaped and placed vertically within the matter of the thalamus. That's why it further divides the thalamus as the anterior group of nuclei, the medial group of nuclei, and the lateral group of nuclei. This internal medullary lamina consists of many internal interlaminar nuclei. Now, as I have been mentioning that it consists of various nuclei, we have to classify these various thalamic nuclei into either anatomical classification or functional classification. Now, coming to the anatomical classification, we have the nuclei in a form of anterior group of nuclei. Second, we have the lateral group of nuclei, which is further divided into ventral group and the dorsal group. And the third one is the medial group of nuclei. Now let us see each in detail. Now coming to the anterior group of nuclei, as you see the blue structure, that is what is the anterior nucleus. Now this lies within the bifurcation of the internal medullary lamina. Now coming to the lateral group of nuclei. Now the circle structures, they constitute the ventral group, that is the ventral anterior nucleus, the ventral lateral nucleus, ventral posterolateral nucleus. We also have a ventral posteromedial, which is concealed within this diagram. And we include the two other main structures, that is the medial geniculate body and the lateral geniculate body. So these are the various nuclei which are included into the ventral group. Now coming to the dorsal group. Now in the dorsal group, we have the lateral dorsal nucleus, the posterior lateral posterior nucleus, and the pulvinar nucleus. Coming to the medial group of nucleus, we have the dorsal medial nucleus, the centromedial nucleus, and the midline nucleus. So this was the anatomical classification. Now functionally, as I have been telling that thalamus receives sensations from the various parts of the body and relays it to the different parts of the cortex. That's why functionally we divide it into non-specific projection nuclei and specific projection nuclei. Now, the non-specific projection nuclei. Now, these are the nuclei which receives impulses basically from the reticular activating system. Now, once they receive the impulses, they project diffusely to the whole neocortex. Now, the nuclei which are included in these group are the midline nucleus and the centromedian nucleus. Now, coming to the specific projection nuclei. Now, these are the nuclei which receive specific form of sensation and project to a specific part of the neocortex. Now, these are further divided into specific sensory relay nuclei. Then next group are the motor control nuclei. Next forms the visceral efferent control nuclei and the integrative and the perceptual control nuclei. Now coming to the specific relay nuclei. Now these include the ventral posterolateral nucleus, the lateral geniculate body, and the medial geniculate body. In the motor group of nuclei, we have the two nuclei, that is the ventral anterior and the ventral lateral nuclei. In the visceral efferent, we have the anterior nuclear group and the medial nucleus. In the integrative one, we have the lateral dorsal, lateral posterior, and the pulvinar nucleus. Now, these all groups have been divided as per their functions. Now, let us see each in detail. Now, coming to the anterior group of nucleus. Now, this blue structure is the anterior nucleus, which is located here. Now, as you see, it receives inputs from the mammillary nucleus via the mammillothalamic tract. And from here, it projects into the cingulate gyrus, which is a part of the limbic system. So, to say, we can say that the anterior group receives inputs from mammillary nucleus and gives its output to the cingulate gyrus. Being a part of the Papez circuit, obviously it is concerned with emotions as well as memory storage. That's why any lesion in the anterior group will result in memory impairment. Now coming to the ventral group of nuclei. As you see the different color structures, we have the ventral anterior nucleus, ventral lateral, ventral posterolateral, and ventral posteromedial. Now, these four nuclei are further divided as motor relay nuclei, which involves the anterior and the lateral group, and the sensory relay nuclei are the ventero-posterior group of nuclei. Now, the ventero-anterior group of nuclei, as you see here, it receives inputs from substantia nigra and globus pallidus, which is the part and parcel of basal ganglia. So, and then its major projection goes to area number 6, which is the motor area. So from the basal ganglia, the ventero-anterior group will receive the inputs and give its output to the premotor cortex. That's why it is involved in planning and initiation of movements. If there is any lesion in the ventero-anterior group of nuclei, it would result in either akinesia or bradykinesia because it depends upon the inputs from basal ganglia, which is involved with tone, posture, and movements. Now, similarly, the ventrolateral group of nuclei, the major input is received from the dentothalamic tract, that is from the dentate nucleus of cerebellum, and few inputs from globus pallidus and substantia nigra. And from there, it gives its output to the primary motor cortex. Thus, it is also involved in modulation and coordination of movements. Similarly, lesion in any of this nucleus would result in akinesia, bradykinesia, or loss of coordination. Now coming to the ventero-posteral medial nucleus. Now as you see the picture which is depicted, that is a face, it means this is concerned with the sensations of face. Now the facial sensation, that is the fine touch, pain, pressure, proprioception, everything constitutes the mechanosensory information. So this information from the face is relayed via the trigeminothalamic tract to the ventral posteromedial nucleus, which sends its output to the somatosensory cortex. Also, this nucleus, VPM nucleus, receives sensations from the tongue. So it is also concerned with the taste pathway. So we can say that the trigeminothalamic tract and the gustatory pathway relays in the VPM nuclei, which sends its output to the somatosensory area. That's why it is concerned with the somatic sensation for the contralateral side of the face as well as taste. So if there is lesion in this nucleus, it would result in loss of taste and sensations from the contralateral side of the face. Coming to the VPL nucleus, as you see here, it receives input from the spinothalamic tract and the medial lemniscus. Now these tracts carry sensations of fine touch, pain, pressure, stereognosis, everything. So from the contralateral side of the body, and it will relay on again on the somatosensory cortex. So it is concerned with somatic sensations for the contralateral side of the body. That's why lesion in this nucleus would result in loss of sensations from the contralateral side of the body. Coming to next, the medial geniculate nucleus. Now remember, the medial geniculate nucleus receives its input from the auditory pathway, that is the cochlear nucleus. Now the cochlear nucleus, it has organized projection of the fibers from the cochlear, lateral lemniscus, and the inferior colliculi. Now all these fibers relay in the medial geniculate body, and from there the outputs go to the primary auditory cortex. So obviously it is concerned with hearing. Now lesion in the medial geniculate body would result, I mean, if there is unilateral lesion, there would be little effect because of the bilateral representation. Now, if there is destruction of a small part, so as I have been telling, it is organized into different layers because each layer is concerned with a particular frequency. So if there is destruction of that particular part, it will result in deafness to that particular frequency of sound. Now, as we have bilateral representation, the unilateral lesion will have literally very little effect, but if there are bilateral lesions, it will result in auditory deficits. Now coming to the lateral geniculate body. Now the lateral geniculate body again is organized into different layers. Now of the lateral geniculate body, macula represents the caudal 2/3, whereas the remaining part of the retina represents 1/3, that is a rostral 1/3. Now, to remember about the lateral geniculate body, it receives input from the optic tract and relays to the primary visual cortex. So its primary function is vision. Now, any lesion in this lateral geniculate body would result in contralateral homonymous hemianopia. Now, these parts would be discussed in detail in the visual pathways. Now, coming to pulvinar nucleus. As you see, the area which is occupied by this nucleus is maximums. That's why it constitutes the largest nucleus of the thalamus. Now, in the diagram, you see that it receives projections from medial geniculate body, lateral geniculate body, and the superior colliculus. So it has got multiple inputs. Now, all these multiple inputs to the pulvinar nuclei are relayed in the visual association area. That's why its function is to integrate the auditory because it is in connection with the medial geniculate body, visual because it is in connection with the lateral geniculate body. So integration of all this information occurs in the pulvinar nucleus. So lesion in this pulvinar nucleus would result in sensory aphasia. Spatial neglect means the person will tend to neglect half part of his body, or attention deficit. Coming to centromedian nucleus, as you see here, it receives inputs from globus pallidus, superior colliculus, also from the reticular formation, vestibular nucleus, and cerebral cortex. So in general, it has got inputs from various parts of the cortex, and it relays to the subthalamic nuclei and putamen. That's why it is concerned with the sensory motor coordination, cognition, pain processing. Basically, the centromedian nucleus is concerned with the emotional component of pain. Also, it is involved in attention as well as arousal. So lesion of the centromedian nucleus may result in epilepsy or intractable neuropathic pain, as it is involved in the pain processing job. Now coming to the dorsomedial nucleus. Now it receives inputs from the amygdala, hypothalamus, and few from the temporal lobe, and it will project to the prefrontal cortex. So again, here it is the dorsomedial nucleus is concerned with motivation, drive, abstract thinking, goal-directed behavior. It may also have a very important role in the personality development. Lesion in the dorsomedial nucleus may result in memory deficit if the input from the temporal area are affected. Coming to the reticular nucleus. Now, reticular nucleus, it surrounds the ventral portion of the thalamus, the blue structure over the gray structure. So the blue structure is a reticular nucleus. Now, it forms like a capsule on the lateral aspect of the thalamus. So if you try to separate it, this is how it looks. Now, this reticular nucleus is different from rest of the thalamic nucleus because it has got no projection to the cerebral cortex. It is formed of a thin layer of GABAergic neurons. The job of reticular nucleus is to receive information from the different thalamic nucleus and send it vice versa. So this is how it will try to process and modulate the information of the other thalamic nuclei. So to summarize, this is a beautiful diagram given in many books to say about the connections, that is the input as well as the output. Now this side, that is the right side, represents the different inputs to the different thalamic nuclei, and the left side represents the output to the different portion of the cortex. Now coming to the neurotransmitters. Now as it is involved in information processing, all the thalamic nuclei have GABAergic or peptidergic transmitters. Now, the GABAergic and the peptidergic neurotransmitters are inhibitory in nature. Additionally, there are other neurotransmitters like serotonin, norepinephrine, glutamate. Now, glutamate is usually the excitatory neurotransmitter in the thalamic circuits. Now, why do we need these neurotransmitters? Because they modulate the transmission of signals to the thalamus. Now, thalamus, it receives a lot of information, sensory information from the different parts of the body. So it is necessary to filter all this information and send the necessary information to the respective parts of the cortex. So the neurotransmitter offer thalamus the ability to filter the signal, which is of course of physiological importance, and at the same time, it offers plasticity. Now let us see the functions of thalamus in toto. We have seen the functions of different nuclei. Now, to summarize the functions, we can say that thalamus is the first So thalamus is the first coordinating center. Why? Because the sensory, motor, and the autonomic information are integrated and processed to give a coordinated activity. Now, the next function is the integration of all the sensory impulses. Now, before the sensory impulses are to be projected to the different parts of the cerebral cortex, they have to be relayed, filtered, modulated, and then sent forth to the respective areas. So processing of this sensory information is the most important job of the thalamic nuclei. In short, it acts as a functional gateway to the cerebral cortex. Now the next function is the relay center. Now all sensations from the body except olfaction are relayed by the thalamic radiations to the cerebral cortex. That's why thalamus is known as the head ganglion of the sensory system. Now also thalamus acts as a crude center for the perception of sensations. Means before the pain is projected to the cerebral cortex for further processing, some part of the component is perceived by the thalamus itself. So despite removal of the cerebral cortex, still the person will continue to perceive pain sensation because of presence of thalamus. Now the next most important part of function of thalamus is the motor activity. Now it is a center for integration of motor function. Now as thalamus receives inputs from various parts of basal ganglia, cerebellum, and then it projects to the motor cortex. So it is involved in unconscious regulation of the motor tone. Also, the different centers in motor nuclei are part and parcel of planning, execution, and coordination of the motor movement. Now, another function of the thalamus is arousal and alertness reaction. Now, the non-specific projection nuclei, they get information from the reticular activating system, and via thalamus, they project to the different parts of the cortex. This is how they play an important role in controlling their level of consciousness. So, along with the reticular activating system, it helps in maintaining state of alertness and wakefulness. It seems that reticular nucleus, which is a nuclei of the thalamus, acts as a pacemaker rhythm for the cerebral activity. Now, as the picture depicts, thalamus, of course, has an important role in emotion and behavior. Now, as the anterior group of the nuclei, along with the mammillothalamic tract, are a part of the Papez circuit, as well as it has got connections with the frontal lobe and hypothalamus, it plays a very important role in emotion and behavior. Now, the next role of the thalamus is in language. Now, it integrates various parts of the cortex to give the language output, especially with connections with the auditory cortex. So this is how it will help to achieve speech and language. It also acts as a center for sexual sensations. The next role is integration of the visceral and somatic function. Now, hypothalamus has got different role in feeding, behavior, appetite, and it is an autonomic head ganglion. So this is how it will help in integration of the visceral and somatic functions. Now, hypothalamus receives somatic and autonomic sensations. Now, it is also a center for the reflex activity because all the sensory fibers relay in thalamus. Now, coming to the applied aspect. Now, as thalamus plays a very important role, any lesion would lead to a drastic consequences, of which the most important is the thalamic syndrome or the central pain syndrome. Now, the characteristic feature of this syndrome is disturbance in the emotional response to the sensory experiences. The most common cause for the central pain syndrome is the thrombosis of thalamo-geniculate branch of the posterior cerebral artery, because of which there is damage to the posteroventral and the posterolateral nucleus. So, in these syndrome, we usually see that it occurs in the opposite side. As you know that all the second order neuron, they relay in the thalamus after they cross at the level of either spine or medulla. Now, the signs and symptoms can be further divided as sensory symptoms or motor symptoms. Now, the sensory symptoms is due to the involvement of the posteroventral nucleus. Now, this can be the symptoms would be either astereognosis, phantom limb, or thalamic overreaction, or amelagnosis or hemineglect. Now, what is astereognosis? Now, stereognosis, which you all know that it is the ability to know about the consistency, size, shape of the object without looking at the object. Means with the closed eyes, you can identify whether this is a key or an eraser or a pen. Now, this depends upon tactile localization, tactile discrimination. Now, in thalamic syndrome, this feature of stereognosis is lost. So, this is known as astereognosis. Now, coming to phantom limb. Now, what it is? Now, there is loss of kinesthetic sensations, means the person fails to receive or process the proprioception from the different joints, muscles, or tendons. That is why the person is unable to locate the position of the limb with the closed eyes. With the open eyes, he can of course see that where the movement of which joint is occurring. But when he closes his eyes, he is unable to perceive the movements. What is thalamic overreaction? It means even the touch of the feather would feel like it is like a flame. So it is the exaggerated response to the stimulus. So why this happens is because of the reduced threshold for pain, touch, and temperature. That's why the sensations gets exaggerated and are disagreeable in nature. Now, Now coming to amelogenesis and hemineglect. Now as you see in the diagram, normally a normal person will perceive that he has got, you know, both his upper limb as well as the lower limbs. But in case of amelogenesis, the person will perceive only unilateral side of his body. Now what is hemineglect? Now in hemineglect, if you see, this is a normal diagram of a drawing of a cat. Now if you ask this person to draw the diagram of the cat, he is able to draw only one side of the cat. So this is what is hemineglect. Now coming to motor symptoms. Now motor symptoms are due to involvement of posterolateral nucleus. Now this is usually ataxia, reduced muscle tone and profound muscular weakness. Ataxia, reduced muscle tone and profound muscular weakness. Another motor symptom which is seen is thalamic hand or ethetoid hand and the involuntary movements. Now ataxia and reduced tone, that is hypotonia and muscular weakness, occurs because of damage to the cerebral efferents. Now cerebellum plays a very, very important role in maintenance of tone and posture. So if these inputs are interfered, it will of course result in ataxia and hypotonia. Now next is thalamic hand. Thalamic hand is nothing but the person assumes a abnormal posture of the hand. So if you see in this diagram, there is abnormal flexion at the metacarpophalangeal joint and hyperextension of the fingers. Now the involuntary movements occur because of the involvement of fibers from globus pallidus. So it could be either in form of chorea, which are nothing but the quick jerky movements. Athetosis are nothing but slow breathing and twisting movements and intentional tremors. So all these lesion symptoms occur because of the lesion in globus pallidus. Now next, other few thalamic lesions include thalamoperforate syndrome, that is nothing but damage to dentatorothalamic fibers, that is from the cerebellum. So the person will present with cross cerebral ataxia and ipsilateral third nerve palsy. Korsakoff syndrome is nothing but lesion of the mediodorsal nucleus. So in this syndrome, the person will have difficulty in remembering new information. And the last is a frontal lobotomy. That is nothing but here we have to divide the dorsal nucleus from the frontal lobe. So this treatment was done in past for relief of intractable pain. So here the pain doesn't reduce as such, but the person does not have a disagreeable response to pain. So to summarize, I can say that thalamus is one of the largest nuclear collection, which is divided into many nuclei. So if you see here, the medial geniculate body is concerned with hearing. The lateral geniculate body is concerned with vision. Now the ventral posteromedial nucleus is concerned with the sensations of face as well as taste. Now coming to the ventral posterolateral, it is concerned with, you know, other somatic sensations from the contralateral part of the body. Now the ventral lateral and the ventral anterior are concerned with movements, that is planning, execution and coordination of movement. The anterior nuclei and the lateral dorsal nuclei are concerned with emotion and behavior. Now coming to the medial dorsal nucleus, it is concerned with memory, as you see the diagram of the pen drive, and again with emotions. The interlamellar nuclei have non-specific regulation, whereas the lateral posterior and the pulvinar nuclei have non-specific projections. So without thalamus, the brain cannot diagnose the sensory information which is transmitted to it. Thank you very much for your patient listening.